Hello guys, it's Teenage DC Fan back in the video, and in our first episode post-Crisis, Team Flash spent a whole lot of time dealing with the fallout of the big crossover and trying to figure out exactly what it means for Earth Prime moving forward. We also got a bit of Arrow action and a global conspiracy to boot. So spoilers ahead for Marathon, the latest episode of The Flash. So the series might be over, but don't worry. The heroes fans know and love from Star City are still around and kicking. So fresh off the Arrow series finale last week, John Diggle has stopped by Central City to catch up with Barry and deliver on Oliver's final wishes in his will. And this episode of The Flash actually takes place maybe like a week before the Arrow series finale. I don't know how much time before, but it is sometime before that series finale. So there's that. But it turns out Oliver was a bit more sentimental than he liked to show. And he ends up leaving his original Green Arrow mask to Barry. And as fans will remember, it's the mask Team Flash actually made for Oliver several years ago. And before that, Oliver usually just wore some black grease over his, around his eyes, which doesn't sound very healthy, but whatever. So Barry finds a bit of Mirakuru residue on the mask and becomes convinced it's a final warning from Oliver. One last mission from beyond the grave. So Barry and Diggle super speed all the way across the globe to Lian-Yu to investigate, and Diggle takes plenty of nausea medicine beforehand, and turns out there was no final mission, and the trip comes up empty. As the Arrowverse transitions into a post-Arrow world, it made for a perfect moment to have Diggle on hand to dispense some of his tried and true wisdom to Barry, after spending so many years having those talks with Oliver. And turns out the residue was simply left from Oliver's final face-off with Slade on Lian-Yu a few years ago. So, no secret mission, no mystery, just the remnants of a battle long fought a while ago. And the trip gives Barry some time to process Oliver's death and what it means to try and fill the void that he leaves behind. Oliver always saw Barry as the hero he could never be, and passing his mask down to him makes it clear he sees Barry as the man to keep fighting his fight, to keep the world safe now that he's gone. And thankfully, he even had Diggle around to help him figure it out. And Diggle's heart-to-heart with Barry also brings us to the episode's title, Marathon. Because the exact thing Diggle says is, life's a marathon, not a sprint, Barry. Slow down and enjoy it. So, I really like that line, because not only is it the title of the episode, but it's a great way to look at life. Like, if you go too fast, you're gonna miss something. It's not a marathon. It's a marathon, not a sprint. You need to slow down. But anyway, all of Team Flash is dealing with the fact that Crisis is over in their own way, and Diggle's advice helps put into perspective for Barry that the end of the world is over, and they're still there. The world is still there, even though it's just one world, as far as they know. So they need to slow down and try to find and enjoy the life Oliver sacrificed himself to give them all. But Iris is basically the main character of this episode, and she's grappling with many of the same feelings as she picks up the threads of the investigation she started pre-Crisis into a mysterious group possibly trafficking and weaponizing metahumans. That group gets a name this week, Black Hole, which should be at least vaguely familiar to comic fans. The group showed up a few years ago in the comics as a terrorist organization trying to use the Speed Force for its own personal gains. And the small screen version looks to be at least similarly nefarious, And the group is run by Joseph Carver, aka the CEO of McCulloch Technologies, who looks to be a big bad for the back half of the season. I mean, I was kind of hoping that it would be, like Red Death or Godspeed or any of those rumored villains. So I have a feeling that we'll still probably have a main villain like one of those for the back half of the season. I hope this dude just isn't the main villain, because he's kind of a sucky villain. Like, he's a good one episode villain, but not a half season. Like, I don't know. But he sends a meta assassin after Iris and nearly kills her. Like, it's definitely a villain thing to send somebody to assassinate someone, but it's a big bad villain thing to be the one to go out and assassinate them. So, I mean, he's already not fitting in with the big bad title. But anyway, this assassin almost kills Iris. But she makes it clear all her dirt on McCulloch will be released if she or anyone around her is killed. So Carver calls off his killer at the last minute, and Iris's investigation leads her to this shuttered office of the Carvers' presumably dead wife, Eva McCulloch, where she's grabbed and yanked into a mirror by an unseen person. Like, there's a huge mirror, and then these silver metal hands just reach out and pull her in. So that's interesting. And comic fans might have noticed Eva's name is close to a comic-based Mirror Master, Evan McCulloch. So it seems Earth Prime also has a brand new Mirror Master to deal with. But as for the rest of Team Flash, we get confirmation from Cisco that our old Earth 2 pals Harry and Jesse are apparently dead in the wake of Crisis. Although, like I said, they don't know that the multiverse actually still exists and that it's just a new multiverse. So I suppose it is possible that they're still alive, but it's not looking good. So that means Harry's dead. That means every version of Wells is dead. So the only version of Wells left in existence is Nash. And Nash is like the least interesting Wells. Well, not necessarily least interesting, but I definitely prefer other versions, like Harry. Harry was probably my favorite. Either Harry or, the Eobard Thawne version, of course. I also really enjoyed HR, but, that's the kind of thing that The Flash does. Like, every season they have a different version of Wells, and then they leave that season or die, and then a different version of Wells comes on the next season, and then it's like a cycle. But if Nash is the only Wells left in existence, then that kind of can't happen anymore. So, back to Harry, though. Like, he's a smart guy, and if anyone could find a way to hide out and survive Crisis, it'd be him. Especially because it turns out he was actually starting to regain his intelligence. Because remember last time we saw him, he had lost his intelligence, but now he's starting to regrow his knowledge and stuff. But like I said, for now he looks to be dead. So at least for now, the gimmick of swapping new Wells from the multiverse every season is over, like I mentioned. And as Cisco so harshly points out, we're stuck with the Wells who accidentally started the Crisis and killed billions of people. But that said, Cisco does invite Nash to join the team by episode's end, after dealing with his own guilt about giving up his powers pre-Crisis, and despite having his powers restored during the Crisis. It seems Cisco is back to being depowered now. So that's a little disappointing, but I have a feeling he'll probably get his powers back at some point. Especially because he's not sure about life moving forward without powers. So Cisco sets off on the road to try and make sense of this post-crisis world, and will be trying to understand the differences in this new reality and trying to sort out what's changed now. But in his absence, Nash looks to be filling in on Team Flash. So hopefully we'll have a Wells back in the thick of it moving forward. But also of a note, Allegra's multiverse doppelganger was apparently Nash's daughter or something. So there's lots of questions there. Diggle also reiterates he's moving to Metropolis with Lila and the kids. And that's something that was mentioned in the Arrow finale. But once again, like I mentioned in my review for the finale, does that mean that he'll show up on Superman and Lois? I mean, here's hoping. But next week, something is wrong with Iris after getting yanked into Mirrorland, and also Amunet Black is back, and it's going to be like a Valentine's Day themed episode because, well, Valentine's Day is next week. Yeah. Sad day for some people, including me. But anyway, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below on this episode of The Flash. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and hope to see you in the next video, so I can bestow all my DC knowledge upon you.